Well, in Africa, still on the most recent sub-Saharan conflict, the one in Sudan, to which so far nearly 200 people have been killed in Sudan following 3 days of violence between its army and a powerful paramilitary force, raising fears of a protracted civil war that could destabilize the wider region. Nearly 1,800 have been injured, and the United Nations said, adding that fighting has been, quote, almost uninterrupted. Airstrikes, gunfires, and artillery have rocked the capital of Khartoum in intense fighting, but the violence is spreading to other areas too. Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke with the warring generals Monday, calling for a ceasefire so that aid could be delivered and international communities could be secured, the State Department said.
Well, running briefly through what is happening in Sudan, the crisis began on Saturday with clashes between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces, the RSF. This happened after months of rising tensions over a 10-year power sharing agreement amid an attempted transition to sea following a military coup. The fighting, which some experts describe as the worst in the history of the country, has since intensified, and the situation on the ground remains volatile. Water and electricity cuts have been reported, and widespread violence has made it impossible for the wounded to reach hospitals. Well, this was reported by the Washington Post.
The crisis has forced the United Nations to temporarily halt much of its operations. Spokesperson Stefan Dujarric said 1/3 of Sudan's 46 million population is acutely food insecure, the World Food Programme has said. Gerrit Kurz, a researcher specializing in sub-Saharan Africa at the German Institute for International and Security Affairs, has said it was too early to know how long the fighting will go on for. For now, he says there is unlikely to be a reliable truce until one of the parties is in firm control of key state and military institutions in Khartoum, adding that an active armed conflict could last for a long time.
Well, the recent fighting is a power struggle playing out between two groups that were once allied and, in theory, supposed to merge. Sudan, coming from a de jure multi-party system of government, the military, led by the country's president, General Abdel Fattah el-Burhan, is clashing with the paramilitary group RSF, which is led by the country's vice president, General Mohamed Haddam Dagalo, who is widely known by his nickname, Hamidi.
Well, the president and vice president came to power together in the aftermath of former President Omar al-Bashir's ouster following civilian protests. But tensions have risen in recent weeks because of disagreements about, among other things, an agreement to integrate the RSF into the military. With an air force and experience fighting in urban areas, the military is better positioned over the RSF, experts say, but the RSF is more than just a militia. It has long-standing roots in Sudan, with a history that includes accusation of rapes and pillaging of villages in the western Darfur region since the 2000s. The group is heavily armed and is estimated to have about 100,000 members.
Well, an interesting aspect to look at when it comes to this conflict is Sudan's history with coups and political conflicts, civil war, coups, and attempted takeovers of government have contributed to years of political instability in Sudan. The most recent coup was in 2021. It saw the military depose the civilian prime minister who was heading a joint civilian military transitional government that had been formed after the ouster of Bashir after months of pro-democracy protests. His 30-year rule ended in 2019 when the military ousted him following the popular civilian uprising.
Well, in 1989, Bashir had come to power, leading a coup against the elected government of Prime Minister Sadiq Mahdi. Sudan has also endured civil wars, and after two protracted conflicts, much of southern Sudan became independent to form a new nation in 2011. So that's about it on the need-to-knows of this uprising war in Sudan.
Well, the interesting thing, however, is how most wars are usually centered around power tussle, like La République du Cameroon not wanting the Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonian, to have its recognition as an independent state. Why? It's just due to all the resources and wealth it will lose from Amazonia.
Wealth is scared to lose that already has 50% of it going to France for reasons we cannot understand. Wars rising from Africa amidst the unending speculations of Russia, China, and the US being in battle to win over Africa makes us wonder if there's more than meets the eye to these wars. Could there be strings tied to colonialism with these wars?
Now, because the wars in Africa are seemingly unending, and we see that daily. Now, let's take this example. While France is losing her grip on Africa, Russia forming military alliances with African nations and America, seeking to establish relationships in different parts of Africa. Well, we can't help but wonder if all be of good faith or subtle avenue of exploitation.